Okay, Michelle and Josh, we've got the transmission out of your Escape up here at our build center, and this is it apart on the bench. I'll just kind of scan some of the pieces here for you. You see there's basically hundreds of parts involved with it, and this is Jeff. He's our resident transmission rebuilding expert, and he'll explain to you what happened here and what we're going to have to do to solve the problem, get you back up on the road.
Hi Josh and Michelle. If you got a couple minutes, I'll go over your transmission with you. You just kind of got a glimpse of all the parts that go inside of it. So I'll explain what happened to it, what we need to do to remedy it, and some upgrades that we can do. So pretty much the main reason why you're here is this piece broke off the band. This is called the 2-4 band. It's used in 2nd and 4th gear. So when this piece breaks, you lose 2nd and 4th and retain the other gears. Now there's a couple of reasons why that band breaks. One, they weren't manufactured all that great, but another one is as the transmission wears out, parts inside the control valve body allow the line pressure or the pressure that applies that band to gradually increase. And it happens over a period of time. And it gets to the point where the band can no longer hold the amount of pressure. So we have to do some things inside the valve body to address that, but for sure we have to put a new band in it, that's obvious. But another thing we do is put in a new, is what's called an overhaul kit. The overhaul kit contains all these friction plates. The transmission has a number of sets of friction plates in here. One clutch for every 1 or 2 gears. So the overhaul kit will contain new friction plates. All the steel plates are still in good shape yet, so I have a machine that'll recondition those in. The hard parts, which are the gears and drums and that sort of thing, all those are in good shape. We can reuse all those, but they need a little work. They have bushings that they rotate on, and the bushings in this transmission are notorious for wearing out, so I install a new bushing kit inside the transmission. Also, I install a new set of thrust bearings. Thrust bearings separate these gears, and this transmission's hard on those. They tend to wear out. A lot of the reason it's hard on them is because after they get old, they lose lubrication pressure. So inside the control valve body here, this is where a lot of modifications will be done to increase the amount of lubrication oil and also decrease that high pressure spike that breaks the band and also ruins some other components. One of the main components that does destroy is the torque converter. The torque converter is a fluid coupling between the engine and transmission. It bolts to the flex plate of the engine. The input shaft of the transmission goes in this side. And inside here there's also a clutch, just like the other ones I showed you. And when the pressure gets too high, the piston that applies these clutches deflects or gets bent and no longer works correctly. So fixing valve body issues will fix the band breakage and future torque converter problems. The torque converter will replace. We replace them with one that's been rebuilt. It's been cut open, cleaned out, new clutch. The piston is made sure to be not bent or cracked. New seals put on that piston, new bearings inside there, and there's a few other parts in there. So the case halves for the most part are good, but one issue we've been finding on these units when they get high miles is the piston that applies that band is right here, and it runs inside this bore in the case. And what happens is the bore in the case wears out from the band trying to push it off to the side. This is the same pin just without the piston, and you probably see there's a small amount of movement in that pin. When there is, then the fluid pressure that's on this side of the piston will leak down past the pin into the case. So it upsets the hydraulic pressures of that servo. So what I need to do is ream and bore that case and put a brass sleeve in there. And that fixes the case, and it fixes it better than new. The brass is a much harder material than the aluminum. So that'll cure that for good, and that'll pretty much take care of those problems. One other thing is a solenoid block. It's controlled by the computer. You need to replace that. So thanks for your time and have a good afternoon.
Thanks, Jeff.